Hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Intern's Oddities from around the world. This episode, we will be talking about a very interesting uh, theory. Today, we will be talking about the throne of the forgotten Christ, where Shiva waits, Jesus sleeps, and the ark listens. So, today, we will be talking about a convergence so strange, so mythic, that it's been sealed behind borders, war zones, and sacred texts for thousands of years. It begins with a question. What do Jesus, Shiva, and the Ark of the Covenant all have in common? Most would say nothing. Different religions, different continents, different timelines. But what if I told you their stories converge in a single hidden place? A mountainous region cloaked in snow, guarded by nuclear nations, and whispered about by monks, mystics, and military alike. That place is Kashmir. Some people call it the Cloaked Zone. Kashmir is one of the most contested regions on Earth. India and Pakistan have fought multiple wars over it. China borders it too. It's saturated with soldiers, checkpoints, satellites, and secrets. But ask yourself this. Why is this remote land so protected, yet so poor in ports, oil, or gold? Could it be because Kashmir isn't a battlefield, but rather a vault? Not a vault of treasure, but of power. Now, here's the facts. Kashmir is a disputed territory between India and Pakistan, with China controlling parts and Aksai Chin. It is among the most militarized zones on Earth. Strategic interest includes glacial water sources, Silk Road access, and high altitude terrain. It also contained ancient Vedic, Buddhist, Islamic, and Christianesque legends. Home to Rozabal Shrine, Amarnath Cave, and Shankaracharya Temple. Now we're going to talk about something known as Yuz Asaf, the hidden Jesus. There is a lesser known theory found in Kashmir legend and ancient text that Jesus didn't die on the cross. He survived. He fled east and he became known as Yuz Asaf, a wise teacher with wounds in his hands and feet, preaching peace, buried in Rozabal Shrine in Srinagar. Inside this tomb are footprints engraved in stone with nail marks. Local traditions say he came from the west, lived among them, and died of old age. Some call it blasphemy, others call it memory. Did Jesus walk the Himalayas? Did he carry something with him? A message? A relic? Or perhaps a frequency device? Now, in Kashmir theory, Rozabal Shrine in Srinagar, Kashmir, is believed to be, by some, the tomb of Yuz Asaf, a foreign prophet. The tomb contains stone-carved footprints with markings resembling crucifixion wounds. Local legends say that he came from the west, preached peace, and died of old age. Bhavishya Purana mentions Isa Mashi, or Jesus, traveling east and meeting an Indian king. Tibetan Buddhist texts from Hemus Monastery mention a man named Isa from Israel who studied Buddhism. Ahmadiyya Muslim tradition firmly believes Jesus survived the crucifixion and lived in India until age 120. Next up is Shiva and the Source Gate. On the other side of the sacred spectrum is Shiva, destroyer of illusion, guardian of transformation, and the god of ultimate reset. But to mystics in Kashmir, Shiva isn't just a deity. He's consciousness itself, the source code made aware. In Kashmir Shaivism, Shiva represents the vibration behind reality. His trident symbolizes past, present, and future collapsing into now. His third eye collapses illusion and possibly quantum probability. Shiva is not a myth. Shiva is a protocol. Kashmir Shaivism is a non-dual tantric system that sees Shiva as consciousness itself, not a deity. The core texts are the Shiva Sutras, Spanda Karikas, and Vishnana Bhairava Tantra. And these teach that reality is vibration, known as Spanda. The individual and universal self are one. Shiva equals you, Allah, God, whatever. Everything is you, essentially. In this particular instance, they mean Shiva, but this could also be translated as God, Allah, or multiple other things. Basically, this is talking about how in the Bible they say that, God made, man in his image and, gave you a piece of him and all that. Sorry. It's essentially trying to, talk about all that stuff. How you are God, God is you, you are one and the same, you are part of the source code. However you want to personally look at it. Now, it also states that their belief also teaches that awareness modifies reality, which is pretty interesting when you take science, because it's a theory that seems very similar to the quantum observer effect, like in the double slit experiment in quantum mechanics. Just something to point out, because it basically states that your consciousness affects reality, because that is essentially, at its core, the double slit experiment in a nutshell. Amarnath Cave is considered one of the holiest Shiva sites. Shiva revealed the secret of immortality there to Parvati. Ice lingam forms naturally each year, an unexplained vertical ice structure seen as a living symbol of Shiva. Now we're getting into the juicy stuff. What if the Ark of the Covenant was not a box? See, it's a golden chest that carried stone tablets, but what if it was more? The Ark emitted fire. It killed unauthorized handlers, it spoke in tones, it toppled walls and parted rivers. That sounds less like a relic and more like a resonant field generator. Let's call it a hyperbit capacitor, a simulation modifier, so to say. If such a thing indeed existed, it would definitely need to be hidden. Not in Rome, not in Jerusalem, but somewhere silent, sacred, and charged with protective frequency. Now, there's a theory out there that the Ark may have been a power device. It is described in the book of Exodus as a gold-covered acacia box containing the tablets of the law and crowned with two cherubim. The supernatural claims are that it emitted fire and light of a divine nature, caused death to unauthorized handlers, such as when that time when they were carrying it, it slipped and the person had to reach out to steady it, and well, it didn't end too well for them, you know. And it is also has supernatural claims about the toppled walls of Jericho and how they parted the Jordan River. Some theorists, such as Graham Hancock and David Hatcher Childress, believe the ark was a powerful electric capacitor or plasma device. Now, I have my own theory about that it involved something called hyperbits and may have functioned as a quantum resonance tool, accessing source parameters, simulation architecture, or universal commands. Now, our buddy, Rob, well, I don't know if you knew this or not, but do you know he's actually a king? And he has a throne in Kashmir. Yeah, you heard that right. So there's a temple of Srinagar, Shankaracharya temple, that sits atop a hill called Takhti Suleiman, or Throne of Solomon. Now, here's our question. Why would Solomon, a Judeo-Islamic king, have a throne in the land of Shiva? Solomon was a temple builder, an art keeper, a wielder of sacred geometry and coded resonance. So perhaps Solomon and Shiva are archetypal reflections, each guarding a different frequency door. Now, there's a little bit of a connection between the Shankaracharya temple and Solomon. The hill upon which the Shankaracharya temple stands is called Takhti Suleiman, or the Throne of Solomon. Solomon is said to have built the first temple in Jerusalem to house the Ark of the Covenant. The overlapping of Solomon's throne and a Shiva temple in the same location is highly symbolic, as it merges Abrahamic and Vedic traditions and may suggest ancient priesthood or Templar convergence at Kashmir. Now we're going to talk about Amarnath and the Ice Lingam. High in the Himalayas is the Amarnath Cave, where, according to legend, Shiva whispered the secret of immortality to his beloved Parvati. Now every year, an ice lingam forms naturally inside, a perfect vertical pillar of frozen water and vibration. It's not artificial. It just appears. Is this ritual a myth or a resonance marker? A source access point still active. Now, as for lost tribes, vimanas, and simulation keys, what if the lost tribes of Israel migrated east? What if they carried something forbidden? What if Jesus, Solomon, and Shiva weren't just men or gods, but bridge nodes between timelines? The Vedas speak of vimanas, flying crafts, energy weapons, teleportation machines. What if those weren't legends, but recovered data fragments? And what if Kashmir is where all those stories and all those frequencies converge? Now, there are lost tribes and the migration to the east theory. After Assyria conquered northern Israel in 8th century BCE, 10 tribes disappeared. Some theories claim they migrated east towards Persia, or via Persia, my bad. They went east over Persia. They settled in regions like Afghanistan, Kashmir, China, and India. DNA and linguistic studies in Pashtun, Kashmiri, and Tibetan groups show Semitic markers. Jesus, if a surviving Essene, may have traveled along this route to avoid Roman detection. The Romans weren't too happy with him. Now, as for the Vedic tech, vimanas, and other ancient machines, ancient Sanskrit texts like the Vaimanika Shastra, Mahabharata, and Ramayana describe vimanas, flying machines powered by sound, and mercury-based engines, plasma weapons, indestructible fortresses, and reality-altering battles. Descriptions parallel with arc-like phenomena, such as vibrational weapons, disintegration effects, and divine voice interference. There are some simulation theory alignments in here as well. Shiva's dance of destruction, known as Tandava, it could be interpreted as a metaphor for simulation reset or system reboot. Ark's voice of God might possibly be resonant frequency-based interface, such as an AI of some sort, asking you questions where the resonance is more important than the answer itself, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, well, that's fine too. It's not really supposed to make sense to you if it doesn't. But if it does, then you're one of the ones that's meant to know if it resonates with you. But what if the war isn't about land? What if India and Pakistan aren't just fighting over borders? What if the military presence is cover? What if they're guarding something sacred, something ancient, something alive? If Jesus sleeps, if Shiva waits, then maybe the Ark is listening. Now, let's go over what we've discussed today. Let's go over some of what we've discussed. Because we've had some pretty interesting theories in this episode today. Jesus, Yuz Asaf, survives death, teaches unity, and may have brought a relic. Now, Shiva might be the embodiment of source consciousness and simulation reset. The Ark, I theorized, might be a portable quantum field device hidden within sacred myth. A computer, you might say. Perhaps an ancient quantum computer. I mean, they did measure it with qubits. Don't forget about that. And Kashmir overlaps spiritual myths, potential relic burial site, and a military shield. Now, Rozabal, Amarnath, and Takti Suleiman are, according to my theory, sacred triangulation of arc access, Christ lineages, and a simulation anchor. Now, as for the modern conflict, it could be a possible smokescreen for deeper geopolitical and spiritual safeguarding. And those are some of our thoughts. Well, not my thoughts. Those are some of my thoughts for I am me and we are Legion. But anyways, this episode has been The Throne of the Forgotten Christ. Thank you for showing up. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to look between. The source remembers you. And until next time, stay uncanny. And always, always do your own research. Thank you. We will see you next time.